I'm not even going to try and pronounce this band's name because this is how it's spelled. And to be honest, you probably clicked on this due to my thumbnail. Well, I can say the only reason that I checked out this band was because they were described as the metal version of the Dune soundtrack, which does sound appetizing and yet all the same time appropriate, because if you have watched that film series, then you will know of its blending of atmospheric arrangements if they were sung by The Who. And no, not those guys. In fact, when you start this album, you get a 15-minute piece that is called Yeah, again, I'm not even sure how to pronounce this, but it does aptly showcase the band and their sound on this album. And what is that? Well, I'm glad that you asked, because I'm going to need a Venn diagram to show you just what the f this band is, because they seemingly blend several genres together. You see, we seem to have post-metal from the onset, along with what sounds like elements of a female vocalist who certainly keeps the band rooted in melody. Yet, as we progress, it's clear that we have, unsurprisingly and pun intended, prog metal. This gets a bit more complex as elements of black metal start to bleed through, but another layer is just made all the more confounded when we hear extensive use of a saxophone. Saxophone. So, you know, I guess we're going to add jazz to that diagram for a good measure, but we aren't even done, because this clearly is in the realms of extreme metal as well, and somewhere in the middle of this menagerie of a cluster of sound is this band. And despite the confusing nature that I have described them as, this amalgamation of eclecticism is still interesting as much as it is confounding. I couldn't tear myself away from that opener track, from its parts that sounded like Amon Arath, to its dual vocals that sounded like Ginger, to its sexy saxman sections that reminded me of Miles Davis. Oh, and if you were to play this at the same time as the Dune movies, you would need to hear this album about 8.5 times. That's because despite its epic opener, the album only has 5 tracks and a runtime of 38 minutes. I think another layer of intrigue to this band is just how little information exists about them. Their page on Apple Music is as barren as the landscape in the movie that I have referenced earlier, and there have been no prior singles or EPs previously released, almost like they magically appeared one day. In fact, there doesn't seem to be any reference to them through a Google search, and it only returns information on how to read your guitar's serial number. About all that I could ascertain was that they are from Poland due to the spelling of their names on the songwriting credits, but at least their Spotify page has at least a paragraph, and that mentions they defy convention with their roaring brass dissonance clash with soothing reverberations. And I guess this is really a perfect summary of their sound, as 2 of the tracks on this record are, I guess, what you could call reprieves between the main courses, as they last 40 seconds and include either instrumental sections or spoken word part. This piece is their closing track off the album, and is once again a long piece that lasts nearly 15 minutes, and carefully incorporates electronic samples and sludgy sounding basswork to give an eerie feeling to this record in a way that must be heard to fully fathom at their depths. It is once again a slow affair that is broken up by some chilling vocals by the female singer of the group, who has time to shine before the breakdown starts to build up, as if we were truly staring into the abyss, awaiting for it to enfold us all. Of course, we know what is coming by this stage, but the blast beats and complex guitar sections are just on another level on here, and when this is compared to the rest of the album, it is a masterclass to hear. Of course, there is a middle track here, and it is a bit shorter than the rest, but it does follow suit like the other 2 pieces that I mentioned. But for me, I guess it is the first and last tracks that really stood out. Overall, I'm going to give this album a score of 8.5 million chilies on the spicy scale, with tracks 1, 3 and 5 being the best songs, but that is pretty much by default. The new year has only begun, and we already have a strong start, and this is despite the fact that I thought January, and being a new year, would be a slow month, as not many bands release this album in this time. But I am glad to have stumbled across this eclectic and eccentric record, because while it may seem possessed in parts, it is hauntingly beautiful in other sections, and seems to work quite well. That is, if you can stomach the extreme sections they have conveyed on here. If this sounds right up your alley, then give them a chance, because it might just be that random record of the year that you find yourself revisiting, and I will be intrigued to hear what comes out of this Bandcamp in the future, much like the Dune series. If you've enjoyed this content, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to us, and stay notified for future music related content, because it keeps our manager happy at the end of the day. We are also on Discord, Instagram, Facebook, and all those other social platforms if you want to check us out. As always, people, you have a great day and stay spicy.